I got to know you. You came to my house for an interview that we did one time. But I got to know your work just because you were sort of, I don't know if we can call it guerrilla news gathering because you're with a news organization, but you were just freaking not afraid. You were putting yourself in the middle of all that shit. It was like the dangerous stuff that was happening. The more dangerous, the better. You were like a moth to the flame for the past 3 years, wouldn't you say?
Well, honestly, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Shelby because Shelby, Shelby, she's actually White House correspondent at the Daily Caller, and she is now White House correspondent, but she's a former pro tennis player. And when all those riots started, she was actually the one who went to our editor in chief, and she was like, "I'm going to go out and cover these." And he's like, "You're a girl, you can't do that." And she was like, "I'm going to go whether you like it or not." And that first weekend, I was actually in New York, and I returned on June 1st, which was the Trump Bible photo op day. And over that weekend, Shelby was like walking into stores as they were actively being looted, along with Jorge, who was one of our interns. And so Shelby was really like the tenacious one who was getting out there and getting into the mix. And kind of my job was between Shelby and Jorge, making sure that the video got up, that everything was delivered, and recording, focusing more on the video in these protest zones. And so we had a couple of situations, where Shelby's standing tall and I'm just like bear hugging her and dragging her out of there because I'm like, you're not the one who's going to get punched in the head first. They punched the guy in the head first for sure. But actually Jeff told me when we went out there, he said, if Shelby gets a black eye and you're not in the ICU, I'll kill you myself. And he's a Marine, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. But it was definitely, I guess, we didn't realize how things were going to turn out at the very beginning.
It was a great team. No, and weren't you guys getting shit from some people on the left for doing it? Like they were accusing you of manufacturing it. I'm trying to remember exactly the content, but it was like, oh, you're making it happen as opposed to just documenting it with your camera. Something along those lines. It was a bunch of nonsense from the left-wing press that didn't have the balls to cover it at all.
Yeah, and we saw a lot of that after Kenosha, after 1-6. And actually in Kenosha, I was took a lot of crap from the right wing because I was wearing a BLM shirt that night, which actually I used to try to save Joseph Rosenbaum, which obviously those efforts failed. But wearing that shirt, that's exactly what you're talking about. Our role was to be a fly on the wall for the American public, just using our cell phones, not, becoming part of the story by coming in with a big camera. And in order to do that, you kind of just had to blend in and, hunker down with the protesters, rioters. If you want to elicit, their truth, why they think they're out there, then you kind of have to embed with them rather than, coming in with a big camera and saying, so why is this a party-like atmosphere?
Oh my God, it's because of you that we know a lot of the violence that happened at these BLM riots. I mean, you're reporting your fearlessness and getting in the mix. It's like because of your t-shirt at a thing where you were trying to blend in, people are trying to say, people know nothing about you. It's like they make all sorts of assumptions from the New York Times to the people who are ripping on you guys for your, journalism during those riots. What I have seen is an honest journalist who's actually fearless in getting us the story consistently with you. Consistently is one of the reasons I wanted to have you on. So, okay. So let's flash forward to our first big flash point. And that is the Kenosha, Wisconsin riot that involved Kyle Rittenhouse there as what he viewed as a protector of a business and somebody there to potentially provide aid. Now, that's a piece of his story, again, that we know thanks to Richie McGinniss. Okay, we know that because Richie was there, and Richie, just to remind the audience, was the guy who got an interview with Kyle, who you didn't know from Adam, that night before the violence started, like 15 minutes before the violence started. You saw this kid. You're there to document the news. This is just to remind the audience again, those riots happened in the wake of Jacob Blake being shot in Kenosha by 7 times by a police officer. He was resisting arrest. This is the one that Kamala Harris called a hero and went to visit and paid the bail for, and all the people who, all that stuff. So the riots happened in Kenosha after Jacob Blake was shot. By the way, it's come out since that he had a knife and he threatened the police officers. So anyway, that's, like so many of these riots, it's like, you didn't know the full story. Go back. Go sit on your couch. There's no reason to burn shit. Jacob Blake resisted arrest, punched a cop, and pulled a knife on him. All right? Take a seat. Anywho, you go, you cover the thing, and you see Kyle Rittenhouse, and just tell us how that started and what your impressions of him were.
I think that story is very interesting because basically the way that I came to talk to Kyle actually started the night before. Shelby and I were walking past that same business that Kyle was in front of when I interviewed him, which is one of the Car Source businesses that he was defending. That's Car Source 1. And actually, the shooting took place in another Car Source lot, which is just up the street. So we saw that business, all the cars in front of it were burning. And there were guys with one guy with a power washer, and no joke, people with buckets and trash cans full of water, dumping them on these burning cars. And so we interviewed the guy as he's power washing, and we asked him why he was there. And he basically told us that he was hired to go out there because the fire department wasn't responding. And so the next day we were in front of the courthouse covering all the violence. You know, the tear gas came out. They pushed everybody back from the fence. Very standard kind of situation happening in front of whatever building it is that they're trying to, you know, burn or whatever they're trying to do, put graffiti on, throw fireworks at. And so they get pushed away from that courthouse and end up in front of that Car Source business. And I went inside because there was such poor internet to try to get on the Wi-Fi to get all of that coverage of what happened in front of the courthouse up. And I saw these armed individuals in front of that same business on Twitter. And I was like, oh, I have to go. I just dropped what I was doing and I walked straight out the hotel, which is right next to that business, the Stella Hotel, and walked right out there. And Kyle was standing in front of everybody else. And I basically just said, hey, does anybody want to do an interview about why you guys are out here? And Kyle immediately volunteered himself.
And that is where he told you the following, which would wind up becoming relevant later at his trial for having shot 3 people, 2 of whom died. Here's soundbite 1.
So people are getting injured, and our job is to protect this business, and part of my job is to also help people. If there's somebody hurt, I'm running into harm's way. That's why I have my rifle, because I need to protect myself, obviously, but I also have my med kit.
That's you. That's your interview.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's so
crazy.
big, because it would have been one thing, Richie, if he had just taken the stand and said, I went there to help people. That was my intention. It's quite another if you've got him on camera before anything happened, telling some journalist. You know what I mean? It was very helpful to him that you and he had that exchange.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is after the shooting, I saw so much different misinformation being passed around about how the shooting actually took place. Having been so close to it, you know, I knew what happened because it was 10 feet in front of me. But the moment that I went out and relayed information like that to the public, the first show I went on was Tucker's show. It was immediately started to be distorted. You know, McGinniss supported the conservative claim that Rittenhouse acted in self-defense. And it's like, no, I literally told him why Kyle told me he was there 13 minutes before the shooting. And so those kind of objective observations and facts and quotes, it just goes to show how they get manipulated to kind of fit whatever narrative agenda that particular news outlet wants to mold.
I mean, this is so critical because, you know, I understand what Kyle went through. And for him, this is absolutely about a criminal justice travesty averted. But this is also very much a media story and a Democrat spin story, because it wasn't just the media piling on Kyle Rittenhouse. It was everyone right up to the president of the United States. I mean, trying to tell us that he was a white supremacist in a case in which no black people were shot, right? Like this wasn't about Kyle going there and hurting black people. All of the people who were shot were white. Kyle's white. It was on the heels of a black man being shot by police, but he was there to keep the peace, right? From rioters in a city. I've said before, I don't think that was a good idea for a 17-year-old to show up there and try to keep the peace. But the truth is the governor wasn't doing it. So there were a lot of people like Kyle who thought, I have an obligation to go protect this city.
Absolutely. And I think that is the first failure where the institutions that are supposed to protect those businesses, like the fire department and the police department, obviously failed. And the fact that they had, for example, an FBI surveillance plane flying over this protest, the fact that they had drones flying over it, it goes to show that, you know, the federal government, federal law enforcement, they knew that this was getting bad. I mean, this was the third night of rioting. So why is it that with everybody paying that much attention to it in our federal law enforcement agencies, why is it that their law enforcement in general was so absent from, you know, all of those businesses that were getting burned down?
Do you ever wonder if your vitamins are working? Clinical studies show Healthy Cell's new ingestible gel technology called microgel delivers maximum nutrient absorption 165% more than you get with tablets. It tastes great too. It's actually hard to make vitamin liquids or gels taste good naturally, but Healthy Cell products are the best tasting pill-free supplements on the market today. Go pill-free and get up to 15 pills worth of nutrients in one ultra absorption gel pack, saving you money and time and giving you effective doses. Take a single great tasting gel pack at home or on the go. It's great for travel. You can mix it into drinks or you can blend it into smoothies. Old-fashioned tablets, capsules, and powders contain synthetic other ingredients like binding glues, flow agents, fillers, and coatings that could irritate your gut. Plus, this product is made in the USA. Visit healthycell.com/Megyn or just use the code Megyn when you check out for 20% off your very first order. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.